West Coast Swing Online with Brian B.
Miss Emily. And Miss Megan.
And Ben!
Why are we waiting?
And the delay. Our Q&A where we hang out with you guys for a little bit. We drink a little Kentucky bourbon. All whiskey is bourbon. Oh, I'm watching myself on delay. We can't have that. So you got some questions. Fire them off. The first question comes in from George. It's a very important question because I was with my family during the Body Rolls video, and George asked if the girls were into my whiskey stash.
I don't drink whiskey.
She thinks it's gross.
It is.
What's that?
Yeah.
No, on the computer I can hear you.
Oh.
No?
No.
Nope.
You can hear us because of the mic.
No, I can hear the stream. You're good.
Good deal. That's why you're here.
Yeah, so I don't drink whiskey, only rum. And yeah, no.
Neither one of us had been drinking. We were just having a really good time, enjoying our body rolls.
Body rolls.
That's what happens when I'm not here. So what kind of questions we have? So we have the Friday Q&A where we answer all the questions for the week. That's a little splattered. And actually, Ben does a great job of organizing the questions into kind of a flow. So if you guys have not seen, especially last night's Q&A video, we covered a couple different topics. How to become a dance teacher. What else was in the list? A little bit about dance history stuff. Was there some stuff about
dance history.
Yes, the influences of different types of swing into West Coast swing. Kind of going off of Forrest and Brian's Q&A from last Saturday. And maybe a couple of move breakdowns.
Yeah, that was fun. There was a question about Zouk and its influence on West Coast swing, and also Shag, which does not get much love recently, but was probably the dominant influence when I started in terms of footwork and how it was influencing West Coast. So it was almost fun to revisit that topic because that kind of has gotten lost, at least in our discussions about where West Coast is going and should it change its name, and the influences of Zouk and what is Zouk and people's different experiences and how dance forms change and all that stuff. So it's kind of fun to revisit a little bit of Shag. So this is your time, gang. So fire Mr. Benjamin off a question. We got some Facebook. We can see Facebook. What did
Hi, Autumn.
Hello, Nancy. Hello, Autumn.
She likes rum too.
Hello, Gordon. Good to see you, buddy.
Autumn? That's what she said.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting our my words typed into Facebook. Look at us, fancy. We got captions going on.
I know how to do that for YouTube. I have to make it happen.
So Dan asked, just curious, why don't we do Jack and Jill? So I'm gonna let you guys answer first, and then I'll have my final. Since I tend to be wordy, you want to go first since you're the least wordy?
I don't do Jack and Jill's because I'm trying to find a not horrible way of saying this. I don't really like to social dance. And Jack and Jill's to me are social dances that you're being judged on. I don't know. So that's why I don't do them.
And you, my dear?
So most of the places that have Jack and Jill's, because I used to do them when I didn't have a lot going on at the competitions I was attending. But since we do have the competitions, typically I am doing Pro-Am most of the day, or Ben and I are performing, and Jack and Jill's are super late at night. Yeah. So I think that's another reason that we kind of have not dove into that. Another reason, if you go to any of the events that we run, I'm typically not able to do the Jack and Jill's because I'm behind the scenes doing a whole bunch of other stuff. So I thoroughly enjoy social dancing. I really do. I just haven't done Jack and Jill's because there hasn't really been the opportunity because I've been doing other things in the competition realm. But I'm not opposed to them. I just haven't really now had the opportunity.
Yeah, and for me, like my early dance stuff was competing straight in routine divisions and in country and in line dance and in ballroom. And then I had Pro-Am. And so my competitive outlet was fueled through the competitive stuff with routines and practice. And so for me, competitions weren't won and lost on the floor. It was all of the hours in the studio, literally on this floor. So I think my last run of competition was, typically speaking, when I was competing, was 2 to 3 hours a day, about 6 days a week. And I think our pace, how long did we go for? 2 years? 2.5. 27 months or so. And it was virtually 6 days a week for 27 months, on top of a schedule of teaching and running a studio and events of our own and all that stuff. And so it just never fit in for me. It was just never my preferred dance style choice, because I could, and I'm a competitor. I'm super competitive. And in that arena, I can't control my partner and I can't control the music, which, to Megan's point, makes it a brilliant dance form, because anyone who can social dance is a viable Jack and Jill competitor. But that's my general thoughts. And then I also think and I love it for that reason. I think it's awesome, and I think that's a big reason why Jack and Jill has grown so much. But coming from my background and the way that I viewed competition for my own self, it always saddened me that Jack and Jill competitors got so upset about placements and marks and points and all that stuff, because they don't take me off track here, yo. Now I'm gone. Yeah, so it was sad for me to see people who, in a social dance competition with Jack and Jill's, where it's luck of the draw, right? You could get Miss Megan come along your line because she has no points, or you could get someone who just came out of group class and is nervous and it's their first time going to an event and everything. So, and then the person who draws Miss Megan or the newbie is upset because they didn't make finals, and they cry in their hotel rooms. And that's sad for me, because it's not a great way to mark your progress. And we coached a lot of Jack and Jill competitors, and we were going to quite a few swing events. We had a run of a couple years where we did attend quite a few swing events, and I had a lot of students, and it was difficult to try to get them to calm down in their path through the Jack and Jills, because each one was such a random draw that you had to do a lot of them over a period of time before you could start to track your progress.
I think it is good, though, if you don't have a partner. It's a awesome, good competitive outlet for anyone that doesn't have a partner. Strictly swing as well. You can find a partner even at the event and just go out there and dance. So it might not be the best fit for us, because we have a lot of other stuff going on, especially during country competition weekends. But I think it is a great outlet for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's awesome. So our events here, all of our students do Jack and Jill's, and it's a great, to that point. I mean, I had Peggy. Peggy was one of the coolest people I know. Peggy was 70, I don't want to lie, in her mid-70s. She was awesome. She was cooler than all of us. And she did it once.
She's a figure skater.
You know, So we are proponents of it. We recommend it. It's awesome. If you guys are watching this and haven't done a Jack and Jill, the best thing about it is, if you can social dance West Coast swing, you are 100% able to do a Jack and Jill. It's quite a fun experience. If you've never been on a competitive floor, you're not required to have fancy costumes. You're not required to do extensive practice.
And you're not out there by yourself. So I think that's super intimidating in and of itself, is being out there by yourself.
Yeah.
But there's usually at least 5 or way more other couples on the floor. So
and the energy can be awesome. And if you try it, you're going to find one of two things. Like my student Peggy, she goes, not for me. But you'll go out there and it's going to be a rush. And if you like that rush, you're going to do it more.
You'll be hooked.
Next question. Do you want to narrate, Benjamin?
Yes. Going back to the body rolls class we just wrapped up, we talked a lot about body rolls and anchor steps. Where else would you be able to use a body roll?
I didn't teach the class.
Where else would you do the ones off the cuff? So the anchor step, I think, is the easiest way to try to incorporate them first. As you start taking out, because what happens is when you take the footwork out, so on like the 3 and 4, on one of the videos coming up where we do some other styling, once you take out any of the other steps, you can add the body rolls to those parts. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be on the body or the anchor. Anytime you take out one of those steps, you can always transfer the weight and add a little bit of a roll in the body.
Bingo. Yeah. If you think in 2-beat increments, If I'm moving into my walk, can I ripple onto that second step by leaving out the first step? Any of the triple steps, you're leaving out the triple and just committing weight to the step. You can use this kind of unlimited. And if I were to guess, did you guys like drill them and then implement them? Yeah, bingo.
We did, yes, and then we added a couple of options from a right side pass and the slingshot. Another one that I was just thinking about it was if you want to be really dramatic on the 1-2 of a sugar push, you can do a little body roll into your partner and then back out.
Bingo.
Just remember, you don't have to do a full body roll either. So like you can do little body rolls with your upper body or your lower body. Total chair dancing right now. But again, it doesn't have to be the whole body roll. So you can make them happen in really anywhere during your dance.
And that's kind of why we talked about the isolation drills that we've done in previous classes. That's something to really kind of start with.
I'm watching us.
Oh, the chair, yes. Because you can initiate the body roll in different parts of the body when you're comfortable isolating that specific part. So it doesn't necessarily have to start with the head or the shoulders. Again, it can start from the bottom up, the knees and toes. But it doesn't necessarily have to start from the top to the bottom. That's probably the easiest one to start with, but not always the best one to incorporate. So that's totally, you have the freedom to do what you want.
What we got, Benjamin?
Where do you see the future of dance heading? Will social dancing ever return?
Yes.
What do you say?
Yes, because it needs to. Because I need it.
Of course it will. Of course it will. You know, the question for me is there's a short-term question, a long-term question. Like short-term, what's it going to look like? And I don't know, because I think there's two things at play. Number one, the general health and wellness, right, that we all have to pay attention to, and legal restrictions and all that stuff. And then even if tomorrow it came across our TV screens that, you know, everything's fine, we don't have too much to worry about, you can go back as you were, I still think there's going to be a perception on top of that that I can't yet predict, that we can't yet predict. So my short-term question is just kind of like, when does the government say in Kentucky that we can open, and what are the restrictions around that? And how do we fashion our lessons and possibly at some point small group classes and then small social dance gatherings, right? What does that look like? You know, when does that happen? And then how do we have to be cognizant of our own specific situation in social dancing, right? We can control private lessons and even group classes to some degree. Maybe people can come with partners. Maybe we can limit the amount of interactions. But when you start looking at, you know, some communities that have social dances that are in excess of 100, 150 people, or at dance events that can, you know, go in excess of 500 or 600. What does that look like? I don't know. What are the legal rules around that? And then the next question is, what's the perception around that? And I actually had a conversation with a pretty popular pro-am teacher who controls. He is the dance teacher for a big chunk of students. And so I was trying to pick his brain on what's his specific mindset around this, and then what are his students' mindsets around that, right? Because that's going to kind of tell us, if we go back to a competition, is this group of dancers coming? Is it the teacher that feels uncomfortable? Is it his students that feel uncomfortable? Or are they totally on board, to try to get a sense of where it's going to go? And if you guys haven't heard me share this metric, our dance cruise, it's supposed to go in July to Alaska, started out with an excess of 160 people. We still have 42 people that said, if that boat goes, we're going. I don't care. We'll go down with a ship. So that tells me 25% of people at a minimum don't care. And then my best guess is when we kind of open up the doors, we'll probably be, our estimation is about 50% capacity. And then where it will go from there to get back to 100%, I just don't know. I think, and I've said this a couple of weeks ago, I think sports is going to be a big tell, right? A big tell, because if they're going to let people back into arenas, I think that's going to up the public perception of the safety of everything. So we just don't know. And as you guys know, this stuff changes. But we're paying attention like you for very good reason, because this is what we do, especially the extroverts in the room. What
All
else
right,
we
next
got?
question. What is the difference between a coaster step and a rock and go?
A coaster step? Okay. You said kosher.
It's a
Coaster step and a rock and go. This almost needs a demonstration. Should we demonstrate?
Go
Can you
ahead.
see? Let's push this forward if the camera can see me. Oh, bingo. Take this with me. I have to wait till the delay is there so I can see myself on camera.
Oh, I can't see your head, but I can see your feet.
There we go. Can we see the feet? Okay, good. So if we did the followers part, we went 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? This would be my post. This is the end of the line, my right foot. So normally I'd anchor step behind, right? A rock and go, I in essence would be leaving my right foot where it is, and I would dance rock and go, right? That'd be my rock and go from the follower's perspective. A coaster step would be back together forward, back together forward, which theoretically could be led, and probably to some degree, sometimes this foot might draw back a little bit before we move forward, but typically not. And you don't want the coaster step. That used to exist in West Coast Swing, and it's gone. A couple of ballroom dance people still have it there. But like a coaster step would be most common in West Coast Swing and a whip. 1, 2, and we dance back together forward. Let me scooch back on the camera. We would dance back together or underneath ourselves and back forward for that change of direction. So that's the difference between a coaster step and a rock and go. They're close. They're close. Let me know if that answers the question. If not, type it in, and then Benjamin will clue us in.
Yep. Next question. What makes men wear makeup in ballroom, and is it expected?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. That's fun. Out of left field. Kudos. Cheers to you.
From Autumn.
Thanks, Autumn. I don't know. I'm not a man.
Did you wear makeup when you did ballroom?
My coach, maybe.
Cool.
It was the most makeup. Natasha Thayer, thank you for all of your help. Your fingerprints are on my dancing. However, that was terrible job of makeup. Terrible.
He stole my makeup.
I have my own makeup. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, but you stole mine.
After I let someone cake it on me, I look like a zombie.
And eyeliner.
Did you say why?
Did I say why? I just think
It goes with the fake tan bronze look. With his open
yeah,
shirt.
so for those of you guys, Miss Autumn, who are in our current country competitive world, and those of you guys in the West Coast swing world that don't know that this weirdness goes on, in ballroom, people look impeccable. I used to think all of the boys were just so good looking. That sounds terrible. They were just super handsome because everyone's haircut is perfect. Everyone is in super good shape. They take the fitness part seriously. They take the makeup seriously. They take the grooming seriously. They take the fit of the costume super seriously. When I started in country, we didn't pay attention to most of that stuff. The costumes were nowhere near where they were. No boys wore makeup. The girls, quite frankly, didn't mess with their hair too much. There wasn't a big overall like stage makeup that we kind of have now from a performance aspect. So when I started, we were kind of the first people to drag a tanning machine around. And Megan used to show up to competitions and look weird and brown. And then
Because of a ballroom dancer.
bingo. Yeah, it was a ballroom dance influence. So there you go. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard this, but it might have been a document. Oh, the Slavic documentary, I think. It's called Ballroom Dancer. But he said, why am I going to ask my partner to do something that I'm not willing to do?
Ooh.
So, we ask the followers, and don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do that. We ask the followers to, get spray tans, do the makeup, do the hair, all of that stuff. Why don't the men do that as well? So he took just as much pride in his appearance as he expected his follower to do or his partner to do as well.
And it's cultural too, right? Like I've been in all of the worlds, and I remember at one point in ballroom dancing, we wear Latin heels, and sometimes people say, well, the Latin heels for the girls and the Latin heels for the boys, it puts your weight on the right part of your foot. Not true at all. Not true at all. It actually harkens back in the ballroom world because it was ballroom dancing. You'd wear a ball gown and you'd wear appropriate shoes for the costume. If you were a Latin style, dress, you wore high heels because it was appropriate for the costume. In country dancing, we wear boots because it's country dancing, it's appropriate for the costume.
With stitching.
With stitching, so it looks right. But then over the time, things change. And in the West Coast swing world, they used to wear, the boys used to wear pants, and you used to even see dresses on the girls, and the boys wear dance shoes. And so I remember the point talking about the cultural shift where I was wearing my Latin shoes with my correct black pants that tucked into the shoes that looked really nice because it's a good aesthetic look. And I looked around one day and I went, oh shit, I'm the old guy. Because I was like the only guy in the room that had these shoes on because all the young people were in high tops and toms, and that was the cultural shift, and the shirts were, you know, kind of untucked. So there's a culture in each that, you know, even though I thought my look was better and more professional, I wanted to look like I belonged when I was at a West Coast swing event. So I don't wear makeup at a West Coast swing event, and a little bit at a like country dance world championships, and all the time in ballroom. Bingo.
Can you all expand upon the spray tans and the craziness of spray tans for the ladies in country?
It looks like you roll around in mud before you take a shower. That's what I got.
I look like
But
that.
why? Why do all the follows get spray tans? Why is it something that's expected at a certain level?
I'm going to answer before I hand it over. Have you seen Megan when the lights are on her? She's super light skinned. Have you seen Megan all tanned up? It's a different experience. Do you want to touch?
This
Go
right
ahead.
now.
Somebody's got to take that.
This right now is like semi-tanned, and I look maybe normal. I'm very, very white. There's actually been a picture that was taken with a flash, and I glow. So I think really it's a personal thing. I like to go out there tan. I don't really think it's required. Like, it doesn't feel required. I think we all want to look our best, and I know from my point of view that I feel better when I'm tanned. But again, if you don't want to tan, you definitely don't have to.
Yeah, the good thing for the boy, I'm covered up. I just have to worry about this.
Although we have had guys do spray tans too.
We have.
Yeah.
Only the like top half, but they still do spray tans. And I don't think it's expected. I think, like Megan said, it's a personal choice. And some people can go super duper dark from their normal thing. I like just a couple of shades darker than my normal color. But yeah, I don't think it's expected. It also, in my opinion, it looks like a more, even if you don't get like a true on spray tan, there's plenty of stuff at Walgreens that you can get that actually looks pretty natural and way less Jergens and way less. And Sally Hansen has another one that's really good too. But there are some part of Megan has tanner on it.
We have a billion lights in here.
Yep.
So I can hear you.
We have so many lights in here that literally, if I did not tan for these things, maybe I'll do that one day. I won't have any tanner on, and we'll just look.
Tan and one side will be her natural color. That's what we'll do. Maybe we'll do a tanning one-on-one class, 101. But either, I just really like I think it looks polished in my opinion. So again, not everyone does it. Some people are naturally more tan than others, so they don't need to, AKA this one. Although you still went to tanning beds, yeah?
I do, and
And you
I overdid it.
Yeah.
I overdid it, actually.
Glowing Ross teeth.
2017, I lost the years. 2017, 2018, San Francisco. I got there, I was tanned, I was ready to go, I was in shape, like I knew what weight I wanted to be on, I was ready to go.
I'll post the picture.
And that week, I freaked out. I was like, I need to take, because then you get used to yourself looking dark, and so I needed to get darker. And to this day, someone sent me a picture. Someone sent an iPhone picture, and someone else pulled it off Facebook, and then sent us had a print made up, like a what do you call it?
Canvas.
The canvas made up, and so it sits in my office. And no, it was Bobby Lee.
Oh.
Yeah.
That picture.
Shout out to Bobby Lee. Thanks, buddy. And it sits in my office. And to this day, I look at it and I go, I look way horribly unnaturally dark. So it's possible to overdo it, and I have. There you go.
But he can naturally tan.
Yeah.
I really cannot.
I was going to say, there are some people that are naturally darker and can tan very evenly and well, and some people don't have that gift. So
I can't believe we're West Coast Swing Online. We're talking about tanning.
that was one of the questions.
I know, it's just funny. Whatever.
Apparently, I don't have to have a flash to glow.
You do glow.
Oh.
But we do put Miss Megan in front of the camera to double check the exposure. She's the last one. We got, hey, Emily. No, actually, Megan, go in there. Okay, that's the right color. All right.
There have been a couple videos where it's hard to tell.
Yep. Her from the white
But
backdrop.
we've gotten better.
We have. What do we got, Ben? Let's get us off this tanning.
Staying on the
Not
subject-
tanning. Not tanning.
Staying on, no, not obtaining, of culture. Why, for the past few years, in standard waltz and foxtrot, has it become so common for the follower to practically have to be able to do back bends in their routines?
Great question.
Cool.
And we're doing a video that's coming out this week on a quick, brief, as Forrest Outman would say, a quick and dirty history of the history of two-step. And so I was looking up some old videos.
On Tuesday.
Two-step on Tuesday. And
You told me that wasn't happening.
I changed my mind, and I got the video done this morning.
Oh, I was like, I thought we talked
Yeah,
about it. Anyway.
I finished it. Anyway, it should be coming out Tuesday. And a fun thing to do is to go back, and the clips have gotten harder to find. I need to curate a bunch of them, but like type in ballroom dancing 1930s, ballroom dancing 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or Latin American dancing, and then 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and track. And I'm going to get around to the back bends, but if you go back to the like 60s, you're watching much older, what looks like today a social dance, right? The ages of the competitive dancers, even at the World Championship, looks like a social dance of today. And so what happens over the decades is younger people get more exposed to it. They live off of the backs of previous dancers, and then as they share their techniques, at some point you have the technical acumen, but then your physical ability matters, right? So if you look at the early stages, you look at the, what's that?
Keep going.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, there you go. I did good on my SATs. Just quit after 1 year of college. So yeah, the athleticism, right? Can you move through a position? Can you move further? Can you move further and faster? And so the athleticism in ballroom dancing is sick. One of our ballroom coaches is, she's amazing.
Shailene, we love you.
You know, and she's past her competitive prime, and she can physically get into positions that we just
I
can't.
don't think she has a prime. She's just prime all
Yes.
the time.
Yeah, but you look at that and you go, well, somewhere there's a 30-year-old version that's learning from her. We'll find. But yeah, so I think it's athleticism. If you look at, who's the girl we really like? The super athletic West Coast swing girl?
Victoria Hink.
Victoria Hank. Ridiculous athleticism. Tatiana Malman. Ridiculous athleticism.
Nicole Clonch.
Nicole Clonch, Benji, like the athleticism, the physical ability of them to move through space. Quite frankly, if we could do that too, we would. You know, like it is at my maximum ability. Well, there's someone that has the ability to go twice as far, and they do. So I think that's what's happening. And then once someone lets that cat out of the bag, well, the next person has to do it, right? If Emily can kick this high, can the next person kick this high?
No.
If this person can kick this high, can they backbend while they kick that high?
Emily can be a ninja.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why. I mean, you in spins. Why does everyone spin so fast? Because if you're going to try to beat Megan in two-step, you better damn well spin really fast. Boom.
I like to spin.
There's a clip of us doing two-step. It's pretty fast. Not
And
me.
you'll see it in the What is the History of Two-Step coming out on Tuesday.
Yeah, check that out Tuesday. It's really cool. It's really cool. I just walk a lot.
Yeah, you turn.
Megan
change
spins.
hands, and walk.
I don't think I turn on the whole clip. I can.
You do? A lot across the front.
Nope.
No.
Oh, yeah, I do
Yes,
turn.
you do.
Yeah, I do turn.
watched
Just
it.
one turn. She has like
It's behind the back. And then you turn and turn and turn and behind the back.
quick. I can't even remember how many spins. Anyways, what's next?
Switching topics, how does one become qualified to be a judge?
Ooh. In what form?
I'm going to assume West Coast Swing or West Coast Swing Online.
Sure.
How does one become qualified to be a judge? I'm going to let you guys take a stab at that.
In West Coast Swing?
Yeah, West Coast Swing.
I don't know.
Good answer, Megan.
So, I know, yeah. So country stuff, you have to go through CEU classes, and then you have to kind of test out, and you also have to do apprentice judging. So I have no idea if that's the way that it is with swing. I have a feeling that it's probably similar as far as apprentice judging goes. But I also know that I have judged Jack and Jill's, as has Ben, as Megan and Brian have too. Megan and myself and Ben are not necessarily.
Not WSDC.
I'm getting there.
Okay, sorry. But clarify that.
I will. God, well, let me talk. Golly. So we have all judged things. They are not WSDC, Jack and Jill's or Strictly's or any of that, but we are higher level professionals in those, so we have judged in that regards. But as far as WSDC goes and NASD, I don't exactly know the process, but I'm sure that Brian B does. So here he is.
Yeah, no, to my knowledge, there in country there is a certification process that they vet people through. I don't know that the World Swing Dance Council actually has that. So you typically get, and this is, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn. So you typically get professionals that are typically on staff, usually that are people that have progressed through the system. But it's different in the. But if you say a Jack and Jill at a country event that is not a sanctioned WSDC event.
I just hadn't gotten there yet.
Okay, good. But if we're talking strict WSDC, does the World Swing Dance Council have a judges training or vetting system? I don't think they do. So you typically get high-level professionals, the people that you see at the U.S. Open, the people that have become all-stars and moved through the system are typically who lands on the judging panels, which there's something good and bad about that. Number one, if you put like me in the country world at this stage, I'm not a certified judge. So if there was an event tomorrow, I'm not qualified to do it. But on the other hand, I'm highly qualified to do the job. But I think in West Coast Swing, you typically get qualified people, but there is no necessarily vetting process. And I think there's an advantage to having a clear judges structure. There's an advantage to that. I think it keeps the marks a little bit more similar. And I think at the U.S. Open this year, they tried to implement some rules and some structure around it, and it flipped things on its ear. So I think there's some growing pains to figure that out. But what's interesting to me, and we teach a lot of students, and we feel responsible for how well they do, and we look at marks and we comb over judges' stuff, both while we're invested for ourselves, our own marks. I actually don't look at mine, but I look at everybody else's. Everyone else looks at theirs. Yeah, I don't look at my marks. As an aside, if you're a competitor, I do not look at my marks. I get my placement, and I take my video back to my coach, because if I start looking at oh my God, so-and-so judge gave me 6th place. They're crazy. I was the winner. That judge doesn't know what they're talking about. Or that judge knows what they're talking about. They gave me 1st. I got 2 firsts and 2 lasts. How does that work? Yeah, so that drove me crazy. So I stopped literally probably about 2001. Megan can attest to this. I didn't look at any of our marks for 2.5 years. I took my placement, I took my trophy, whatever the number was, and I went back to my coach with the video. So there are some growing pains to putting the structure together, but I'm actually surprised in the aggregate over time how clear the marks are, and they do tell the true story. But if you look at any one particular mark in any one competition, any one judge, you'll drive yourself crazy and want the system to be different.
Well, and we've also, I was just thinking about this, we've had a couple of apprentice judging sessions and someone who apprenticed head judged at our events. So we had at one point, Doug Rozier did like a judging seminar. So you actually got to you had some sort of workshop first, and then I think they went out into one of the either Strictly Swings or Jack and Jill's or whatever, and then they all marked their scores, and then they went back and kind of talked about it. So I don't know the extent of that, but I would assume that if it's happening at our event, it's happening at other events too, as well as the head judge, Jake Hanning, was working with Dawn at Derby City Swing.
Don Garish being our head judge.
Don Garish was our head judge. So they were working together, and they had kind of one-on-one time too. So if you're wanting to be in any of those specific judging scenarios, there are places that you can kind of practice and apprentice.
And I think when she was saying that, I forgot. There are a couple of people that run judges training, like classes. I think Gary Jobs runs one, and yeah. So, excuse me. If you come across a judges training system of some sort, I think it's very useful because on one level, there is like dance knowledge, but then there is a structure and an art to then looking at a floor full of 60 people, and you have X amount of time, and how do you allot that time to do your job? Are you pulling out leaders? Are you pulling out followers? What's the system? How is it being marked? There's, WSDC has its own system, but depending upon your dance form, the marking system is a little bit different. Literally, the physical ballot will look different. All the math is the same. Ben does some scoring for us because he's a really smart guy with math. But the physical ballot that you're working with might look different from an event to an event. So to understand if you want to be a judge, you have to understand what could come across, a way to use your time, a way to organize your work. And you will see that with judges, even ones that have been there for a long time. You'll see some of them that are really good at using their time with the ballot and others that aren't. What was my other thought on that?
Exactly what they're looking for if they've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, and so interestingly, judge-wise, like when Megan and I have sat on a panel together, we'll sit next to each other and we'll judge some stuff. And it's interesting because we'll talk afterwards. And now Megan was my student from the time she was 15. Then she was my professional partner for over 2.5 years. And so we should theoretically look at dancing about as similarly as possible. And yet our marks will vary because we each individually value different things. And that's even after me teaching her and being the biggest influence in your dance career, and then us as a partnership coming together to decide what we valued as dancers and competitors. So you would think that we created the same value system and our marks would be the same, and they're not always. Not terribly dissimilar, but if I value A over B and Megan values B over A, and then we both have C in the same spot. But that might change how we look at a particular dancer on the floor. And then I get out of practice. When you don't do it a lot, in the early years, I judged a lot, like 25 weekends a year. These days, very, very little. And so I actually feel out of practice when I don't do it a lot. So bingo.
All right. Next question. Do we have any dip videos planned in the coming weeks?
Oh, good question.
Monday when you all weren't back yet.
Bingo. Want to do some dips?
Sure, we can do dips.
Yeah, that's a good one. I can't believe we didn't.
Oh, it's been on the list. It's also been pushed back.
Down the list. A lot of stuff.
2 Mondays from now.
Yeah.
2.
So we'll be gone next Monday.
Not this coming Monday, but
But yes, we'll add it to the list. That is a great. We did ducks. Dips is a good one. Yeah, there's some good stuff to understand about dips, especially in the context of the new culture of West Coast Swing, which, to the question about ballroom dancing being very athletic, West Coast Swing is very athletic now. And so what I've experienced is the amateur dancers watching the professionals, and the professionals fly themselves around in crazy ways, right? Imagine Tatiana doing all the crazy stuff she does. But there is a physical ability and a technical ability of those high-level dancers. Then the amateurs follow that, and they're doing what looks to be the same thing, and then me as the leader on the other end, it is not the same thing because the fundamental understanding isn't there. So that is a great topic to cover because we can cover some things in its fundamental way, and then I can say, by the way, if you're like Emily and you can walk over from this position, this is how you would do it and not disturb me. Can you? Yeah, my niece Brooke was behind the camera. Well, why don't you walk over when you dip? It's never happened accidentally. Anyways, what else we got? That's a good one.
That was our last dance-related question. Allison wants to know if you're going to be watching the fights tonight.
I'm going to be watching the fights tonight. This is, some people want to go back to church. Some people want to go dancing. For me, it's UFC fights. I am going to be on delay. I've already texted all of my friends. It's true. Some people, that's what they're Their thing
You want to
is,
go to church? I've got UFC fights.
I've got fights.
Hashtag priorities.
So yes, I am super excited. They are fighting in the next 3 weekends in Florida because Vince McMahon of the WWE is convinced, Allison will like this, has convinced the state of Florida that professional wrestling is an essential business. And the UFC has jumped on that train, so they are doing fights in an empty arena. They're actually going on right now. So if you're my friends and you're watching this, you've probably already been texted that I text my friends. They go, "You watching the fights?" And my reply will either be yes live or yes on delay. Notice it's always yes. It's just whether it's going to be live or I'm on delay. So I will go home, rifle to the undercard.
Is it going to be in a wrestling ring?
No, it's going to be, but it's just the WWE convinced the rule to be changed for Florida.
They're just jumping on that train.
What do you got? You're welcome, Brian. I can see you. Yes, Rans, it's essential. Carmen, thanks for hanging out with us, buddy.
Or maybe y'all can. Oh, Brian sent us a message.
On what?
What was the
asking
message?
if we were going to do 222.
Oh, I did see that briefly. Absolutely, because I'm gone next week, so I will. Are you going to be doing 222?
The schedule's already up.
Okay, so we will get to 222. There will be. It will not be me. I love 222. I think it's an amazing dance. I do. I think it's a great. It's the bachata to the salsa of country.
What's that? Squirrel.
So
That's the chips to my
salsa is what everyone wants to learn. That's the quintessential Latin dance. But bachata is the easier, more approachable dance that's still super fun.
The better one.
It's the better one.
Better
Yeah.
music, easier to do. Everyone likes it.
It's a great dance. Bachata is an awesome dance.
It is.
On the flip side, two-step is the quintessential country dance, equivalent to salsa, the bigger, more popular, more well-known. But 222 is the more approachable, a little bit slower moving, actually matches the current music that's out a lot better.
Yes.
See?
But two-step's still better.
Yes. Two-step is, I don't know. Two-step's a lot of fun. It's super fun. But triple two with the country music of today is you're able to do it more to that type of music. So that's why I think that 222 and West Coast are. We actually did a 222 at Nulu last year, a 222 for Westie's class, which went over really, really well because it's still walk, walk, triple step. So it's the same rhythm. But you are 222 is tons of fun to do, just in general, social or competitively. So it's coming. Don't worry. Thanks for asking.
Boom. What else we got, Benjamin?
What are your thoughts on Krav Maga?
Where did that come from?
YouTube.
Where
William.
did that come from? Really?
Yeah, William asked.
What are my thoughts on Krav Maga? I have a high opinion of it. So the place that I trained at here, Core Combat Sports, you can look up Core Combat Sports, Louisville, Kentucky, because the owner, super upstanding guy in the community, he's had the business for 15 or 16 years, and he is kind of like the foremost leading expert in Krav Maga in our area, and he trains a lot of law enforcement. I train with a lot of police officers. And so ironically, he was doing live videos. They launched a similar business to West Coast Swing Online out of their gym. And because they've been shut down for 2 months, they were doing live videos or at least recorded videos for their customers. And the government actually sent him a cease and desist letter. I think largely it came from the fact that he had a PPE drop-off outside of his business, and he's a pretty well-known guy in the community with a lot of members to the gym. People were coming in and dropping off stuff all day long, so there's a lot of traffic coming in. And so someone called, and they sent 3 police officers, and they shut him down. And so he jumped out, and there you go. He jumped.
Watching ourselves on delay.
He ended up on the news 3 times, and one of the things he said is, in much the same way as our business is a lot of personal contact, right? He teaches fighting, like real fighting in jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and boxing and Krav Maga. He teaches real fighting. He's even taught, oddly enough, the governor's security force here in Kentucky. And he said, they're shutting us down and they're giving us a cease and desist. He wasn't in business. It was him, his son, and 1 instructor. So it's not like he was, quote unquote, breaking the rules. And But anyways, he's a big guy in Krav Maga, and you can even look up William. Hang on, I'm going to find this video. Yeah, you can talk for a second.
I know
Emily,
nothing about Krav Maga. Was there a question for me?
No, I was going to ask you what your opinions of Krav Maga were.
My opinion is it's a really cool name. And there should be a t-shirt. I'm sure there is. It's a joke. I don't know. Yeah, I wish I had a topic that I knew anything about. Other than I saw the duck and I was doing the duck.
Do you want to switch topics real quick and come back to this
Sure.
defense video? Are we going to be doing more hustle videos in the future?
We are, in fact, yes. Either next week or the week after that, Ben and I did a video, and then we will be doing more. That was more of a kind of basic beginner hustle video, but we will be doing more intermediate stuff moving forward. So yes, there's one already in the mix for one of the Tuesday or Thursday classes. And then we will be doing more after that if we continue these live classes. So there is more on the way, and it kind of depends on how much more and how long we're in lockdown still. Ooh.
Keep talking.
Emily, you can talk on the next one as well.
Cool. Give it to me.
Are you all just going to be MIA, or are you going somewhere in particular next week?
I've got some family stuff to attend to, and also I bought a new business, which I'll tell you about at a later date. But that's what's largely going on next week for me. Anyone?
So
Bueller?
there you go. That's what's going on next week.
What else you got? Hang on, I'm looking for this video, William. Someone take a can. I'm
That was
ADD.
the last question that we had.
So earlier we said something about a hook or something, and it really reminded me of these videos on Facebook where people are acting like fishes.
Fishes?
Fishes? Fish eye? Fish?
Fish?
Fish? With like hangers. And then all of a sudden a fish goes away, or the human. And
Like on Saturday Night Live.
I wanted to say this then, but
Fish eye.
it was not
They do the little
on topic.
and then they reel them in.
It's really funny.
But Ben, you should find a link of Shalene. Oh, I don't really need that.
Do you think that we'll be able to resolve music issues so that way we can include more music in the videos?
We will try.
Yeah, so we do have some options as far as royalty-free music goes. It's just really hard acoustics-wise and video-wise to kind of catch it for it to be a good quality, but we can definitely try to incorporate more music into each of the classes, especially the patterns classes, because I know that does help to see things done to music. So, yeah, that can be done for most of the styles. I know we have songs for two-step, West Coast. We haven't done salsa, but I think there are some bachata songs. They're not very good. We do have a country swing song that we've used. So we have that. I think that's Texas techno or something like that. And then we have looked for other swing songs. They're just not really great options, but we are working on it for you guys for the future. And he's still looking up this video.
I can't find it. He must have taken it off. Dang.
So here you go.
The owner of Core Combat Sports, Rolando. I can't find the video. It's one of my favorite YouTube videos. And he did a video on self-defense. And he says, so the techniques to self-defense are kind of bullshit. And so what he meant, because as a dance teacher, I like that. And he said, it's not about the specifics of the technique, but the principles of the fight. And so I thought you'd appreciate that, William. It's not about the specifics of the technique, but the principles of the fight. And so that kind of rang true for us as a dancer, because it's not about the specifics of one particular move or one particular technique, but the concepts that pin all of them together. So I cannot believe I can't find that video. I'm going to get mad at them. I told them it was my favorite video they had up, too. and they took it down.
Maybe they don't have their
It's like
keywords
4
on.
years. It's like 4 years old. Now I looked at their whole channel. I looked through all their videos. Yeah. Rolando's son was 12, and I remember he almost rear naked choked me, and I thought, oh, it was cute because I was an adult and he was 12. He could crush me with one arm now. Like, he crushes his dad, and his dad's like a real-life Mr. Clean. And a black belt. And Nathan crushes him easily. It's not about the specifics of the dance, but the principles of the fight. Any other questions?
Have you ever heard of Andrew Wilson? I'm assuming this is in a fighting.
Or not.
Andrew Wilson?
Yeah. George asked.
I've
George
not
is from
heard of an
Arizona.
Andrew Wilson. Yes, William, it all goes out. It doesn't happen choreographed. Like a Jack and Jill, it doesn't go down like we wanted it to all the time.
True. Sometimes we have fantastic dances in Jack and Jill's.
Yes, and sometimes
Puncher.
there's a beautiful fight, but often it's chaotic.
Okay.
See, I'm transitioning my brain from dancing to fighting that's coming up here a little bit.
But no, that was our last question.
Crushing.
Any other final questions? We're on a 20-second delay, so if you have any questions, please type them in. What's going on over on Facebook?
Fishes.
They're talking about fishes.
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 You probably missed that. Probably couldn't focus on
Because you're
voice
Krav
and
Maga.
that.
So hello, Janet, Mr. Gordon,
Gidget.
Gidget, Brian, Rands, Brian again, Carmen. We say hi to everyone.
All the people.
On Facebook, on YouTube, we can't see. Well, yeah, we can see names. I like the hat. There you go, Rick. I'm a baseball fan. If you can't, I don't know if you can see that, but my cousin and I took our dads to the Hall of Fame a couple,
2017.
May 2017. So we had these cool. You can't exactly see it there, but it says May 2017, which is when we took our dads. So it's right around this time last three years ago. It's pretty cool. Really cool trip. 2 guys and their dads, Baseball Hall of Fame. I played catch with my dad, and you could see the Baseball Hall of Fame over my shoulder. We played wiffle ball with my uncle, who's like 72 now, and he was a super athlete in his day, and so he pitched for us. I still beat my cousin. My cousin makes a lot bit more money than me. He's good looking. He's got a good family, but I could still beat him in wiffle ball.
74, if he's older than your mom.
Yeah, my uncle's 74. My uncle said on that trip, he said in his high school yearbook, it said, a man builds a temple called his body. And he looks at me, he says, well, son, the temple's now in ruins.
I like it.
So on that note, my Uncle Danny. Everyone should have an Uncle Danny. Thanks, Gidget. We have a good time.
Thanks. We
Maybe we
liked
should
doing the Q&As too. Then we were ousted.
It's not true. Forrest, I can't ask you about the history of...
And Marin.
Do you not love Miss Marin?
I love Marin, but I also like the Q&As.
You can make your own Q&A. You can do a 3...
I tried!
They yell at me. This is what I have to deal with. But Ben, bless his measured heart back there.
Whatever.
Just keeping it all together no matter
Behind
what
the
goes
camera
on.
Actually doing the in charge
Oh
of the
my
camera
God.
is terrible.
So bad.
They pull me in here to help with the video where they say press start because they're too lazy to press start and edit out themselves walking to the front in front of the camera.
We're trying not to edit. We're trying to make it as clean as possible. We don't want to edit. If we have to edit, we will. But that's why you're there, so you can also follow us in the video as well.
It's a lot of work. This stuff is actually a lot of work. Like, we're on camera for, an hour and a half, but we're here. Well, we've gotten later, but we spent some time prepping for the videos. We have to get in here early. There's some time cleaning up. The video that's coming out Tuesday, I think maybe today, between editing I think we have 8 hours into that video. It's only 6.5 minutes long, and there was 8 hours of total time into that video. What are you giving me a dirty look for?
Nothing. I think it's more than that.
Maybe it's more than that. It's more than that.
So Brian, Gidget wants to know where Brian the Body Bear Koskis came from.
No, that's from him taking his shirt off.
No, there's this. Yeah, it is. Actually, it is. Actually, it is. So I got a message of. Oh, my camera's. Am I still on?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, good.
Green.
I saw it flash red. So there's a nickname, Brian the Body Bear Koskis. This resurfaced because of the live video. So early in my dance career, I was big in the line dance world, and I traveled overseas quite a bit, 2000 to like 2005. So there was a magazine over there called the Line Dancer magazine, because at one point line dancing was the biggest social activity in England. So to put that in perspective, bingo is huge amongst it was bigger than bingo. So there was line dance clubs or dance halls on every corner. It was super duper popular. It was a big fad in like the late 90s and early 2000s. So there's a whole magazine dedicated to it. So the lady who ran Line Dancer magazine, they also had a Line Dancer Awards, much like what are the awards that they have? The Emmys, the
Oscars, Emmys, Academy Awards, Oscars, and Academy Awards.
So they have the Crystal Boot Awards for the favorite dancer and favorite instructor and favorite personality and stuff. And so I was never nominated, but I was invited to go over. This lady, Betty Drummond, saw me do a routine here in America, and it was to the song I'm Too Sexy. And so I took off my shirt.
Is that where you wore the cheetah pants?
And the cheetah pants. And so she'd seen this routine for this young, talented dancer named Brian Barakauskas, right? So her team sends me an email, invites me to the award show. So I get to England, I'm rooming with a friend of mine, and I go to check in. It's my first time in England. It's maybe my second time traveling internationally. And I go to check in, and Mr. Pedro Machado gets his thing, my buddy, and I get my little registration card, and it says Brian the Body, right? And so I thought, well, that's just interesting with England. It's just like they call everyone the body, like the person, the body, right? So I sign in. Check, this is a true story, 100% true. You can't make this up.
I just don't know why you thought that. I don't know.
I was like, it's my first time. Your first time in a country, your first time checking in. So it says the body, and I check in, and I go up to my room, and then later on we come down because it's like an award show. We have a meeting, and so all the people that have been invited, this is what your responsibilities are. And at one point, one of the ladies from the Line Dancer magazine looks up and says, "Oh, do you know what? In our office, we can't pronounce your surname." So Betty showed us the video where you took off your shirt. So we just call you Brian the Body. And so that nickname stuck in somewhere. Yeah, I love Betty too. And so that stuck, and on occasion someone would pull that out. So at some point when I went to Malaysia, they actually booked me all around Malaysia, and they have a big like 16 by 4 foot banner that has a picture of me. It says Brian the Body Barakauskas.
Probably doing a body roll.
It's like rolled up in my garage. So somehow this resurfaced. This was like almost 20 years ago. This is like 19 years ago. And so it resurfaced in a podcast, and someone from the early 2000s mentioned it, and someone messaged me, and apparently Gidget, you were watching that as well. Thank you for reminding me.
All right, ready to change topics?
Change topics.
I'm going back to dancing.
Did you say no? You're not ready to change topics? Megan the Body. Okay, got it. Megan the Body.
Going
Megan
back
Anderson.
to dancing, how does one know how to variate moves out of basic moves and patterns? So how do you figure out how to do variations to basic moves and patterns?
You do them until your teacher yells at you and says that they look dumb. I'm just kidding. I can make that more professional, but I'll give you a stab. We'll see.
Okay, so
Time to think.
variations as far as anchor steps and all of that stuff, there are definitely drills that we have and that are on YouTube that you can find. I would recommend I would always start with the anchor because I feel like that's one of the big places that you can always add variations to in different ways. But there are tons of drills that you can do, and once you are comfortable with those, it's not a guessing game, but it's kind of a find out what works for you game. Like we had the find your own style class, and you're going to find what feels natural to you, what feels right to you, and you're going to kind of make that your own. So
What do you got, Ben? You got something? Ben's going to answer.
When Emily's finished, though.
Yeah, I think it's a trial and error. So you're going to have to give yourself time to kind of go through a whole bunch of different ideas and concepts. And if you struggle with coming up with those concepts, we definitely have tools that can help with that. The styling checklist is really helpful because you can go through different parts of the body and kind of check off
Brian the Body.
different parts of the body that you can accent and stylize and like body rolls. And any of the anchor styling that we did too, those are all going to be good options. So you've got to find what's good for you. You've got to find what's a good fit for your body and your mobility. And if you're working on mobility, body rolls are great drills to work on. And yeah, it's just going to take some time.
What you got, Ben? I want to hear Ben's thoughts.
I think that you will find it easier to pick topics. So there's scrolling, there's extensions, there's rock and goes, there's over rotations, and pick one and figure out where in your basic patterns, where can you add an extension within your basic pattern to make it be more of a variation. There's syncopations. Where can I syncopate to do a variation? You pick one and you spend a long time going through it with that. So you, if you want to pick syncopations, and you go through and you spend the next month working through your syncopations until you get that down and you're very comfortable with it, and then you pick something else. And then once you have that something else down, then you can go back and you can say, okay, can I combine these two? Can I combine a syncopation with an over rotation? And figure out how that'll work within your variations and with your basic patterns in order to do things where we've talked multiple times about the pros looking like they're doing something different. Really, they're combining things where they'll combine a syncopation with an extension, or they'll combine an over rotation with scrolling in order to take things out, but it's really just variations on your basics.
I love that answer, and I've said this before in this video, and it's going to be really goofy. Doobie, 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 do. So there's a guy named Amit Goswami. He's a physicist, and so he was talking about creativity. How does creativity happen, right? Variations, how does that happen? And he's Indian, so when he says it, it sounds really kind of cool. Doobie, 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 do. That's not a good accent. Anyways, so to Ben's point, I love that, because typically the people ask that question, there are people who probably didn't have to go through a methodical process, right? They were amazing. They figured it out. They're naturals to some degree. Usually those people have like 20 years of dance history, but let's call them naturals. And the rest of us that are looking to find our way through that, to Ben's point, instead of just trying to recreate what you see, you have to pick an area. That's the do part, right? Do be. Pick that part and methodically work through it. And it's mechanical and it's not creative at this point, right? You're just kind of learning. And then as you build some skills in the do part, then you be. Then you just let it happen naturally. Maybe in the beginning you're thinking about it automatically, or you're thinking about it and it's a little methodical, and eventually it becomes automatic, just like learning the basics. You had to count everything out. And at some point, you counted out loud. And then at some point you just moved your lips. And then at some point you counted in your head. And then at some point you stopped counting. So that same process can happen with your styling. And to Ben's point, pick something, stay on it until you understand it, and then let it be. Then pick up another area, develop another skill set, let it be. And then out of that, what Amit Goswami would say is, will come the ripple of creativity. You'll start to combine them in ways. But to Ben's point, and I'm glad he brought it up, it does not happen easily, quickly, but it will happen. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a short amount of time and underestimate what they can accomplish in a long period of time. So if you were to map out the next 12 months and pick 12 skill sets that you were going to master over the next 12 months, you would end up with more than 12, because you would start to find ways that you can combine them on your own within those 12 months. But if you try to do it all today and make the leap from novice to all-star as a competitor, it will not happen that way. You're going to pay the price short-term or long-term. And the shorter way, I think, is Ben's. Ben, Gordon said, you can read what Gordon said. Nice compliment to you. Thanks, Gordon.
That's what he was thinking.
Yeah.
I loved it. I had to put it a little more.
Yeah.
Going back to music. Want to read Mr. Williams' question? You articulate it much better.
So William brought up, going back to music, ASCAP seems to have special LLC for dance studios. Is that something that we could use on YouTube?
We have ASCAP, but we can't use it on
No. Short answer, William, no. A friend of mine's pretty up on all this stuff and has been doing live videos and has been tagged for music on Facebook and YouTube. It's not that easy. It's very complicated, and it's each song. There is a list of songs and different ways you can use them on YouTube, but each song might have its own rules. So a creator might have a song and say, you can use it, but then we're going to put ads on your video and we get the revenue from it. Okay, cool. Or they say, no, you can't use it at all. Or they say, you can use it, but only if you're going to recreate something to it. What does that mean? Does that mean we can dance to it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Does that mean we can make our own cover tune of the song and sing it and play our own instruments? It might. So it's really hard. And to be honest, I've just personally chosen for two reasons. Number one, the legalities of it and the trickiness of it. And I don't want to have to chase videos around that are shut off, demonetized. You get a strike against your channel. There's all sorts of things that could go on. I've just tried to stay away from that so that I don't have that headache moving forward. That's number one. Number two, the act of adding music to videos, especially live videos, adds another layer of complexity, and for us slows down the whole process. And we put out a ton of content. I think we're like 70, 80, 100 videos during this live thing. 86. Like 86 live videos. It's a ton of content. It's a ton of work. If we layered on music to all of them, it would have literally added at least 100 hours to that process for us. So it's just something that we've chosen not to do. We did have luck in putting live videos on, or live music on our courses, because it's on our own platform over on westcoastswingonline.com. So whether you're a member of West Coast Swing Online or Country Dance Online, Social Dance Online, you have access to all the same videos. It's the same video player. Now there's 523 videos up there. So even if we added 100 videos with music, you're still going to get music on only one of every 6 videos on the site.
We are working on trying to incorporate more music into the videos.
I think there's only music in the course.
Yeah, currently in the course, a couple videos. But so that's the short answer. The music license does not cover us on YouTube. It's a different animal. It's a different. Yeah, what was I reading? I was reading something else today about music rights and all sorts of stuff. We even shared, Ben and Emily were in was it the Country Two-Step Challenge? Explain that, and then we'll talk about the music.
So Ben and I were one of, I think, 14 or 15 other couples, professional country couples, and we were all kind of tagged around the country, which is super cool, but we all had to do a phrase of music, and then from there it was all spliced together, kind of like our choreography challenge. And so we each did a phrase of a specific song, and all of it was put together. And I think it was posted on maybe Tuesday or Wednesday of this past week on our channel or on Facebook. And it was super fun to do. It was to Alibi by Bradley Cooper from the Star is Born soundtrack. And there was another one that was done that was Nightclub. We were not a part of that, but there were tons of other country pros that were a part of that. So that ended up being super cool too. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's super fun to watch. It's about 3 or so minutes, but there's a lot of different scenery. We have our Louisville mural behind our video. It started off kind of super simple, and we didn't know if it would catch, but it totally did, and it turned out to be really cool. We had Mark Davidson, who's one of the multi-time Masters champion in Showcase and Classic. He actually spliced the routine together, and it turned out really, really cool. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. I don't know if Brian posted it or not, but it's on our Facebook page.
But the point of that was that we post that has music, and we're getting all the notifications that it's going to be taken down. It's muted, and it's partially muted, and it becomes a headache to keep up with. So I called my friend who's up on this stuff, and he said, you don't have to worry about it, but it becomes another headache. So there are ways we could have done this through Zoom and stuff like that, but we chose to basically move fast and free.
You still have the same issues with Zoom.
Oh, you do have same issues with Zoom? Yeah. So that's the short.
Rough road.
That's the short answer, the long answer to that question. So, although we'll try, you'll likely not see a ton of music on the videos for that point. It just takes like the What is Country Two-Step video that we're putting out, like kind of the history of two-step video that's coming out. Like that took 8 hours, and at that rate, we would have about 32 videos out, and instead we probably have we've probably shot somewhere around 600 plus at this stage, because there's over 500 on the site. So there you go. We're trying, but we learned something. We sucked at this live video thing. The first 3 times we did this, I cried in the corner, and
It was rough.
but now we got it. Multi microphones. We got Ben. We're cool now.
A little bit of conversation, a couple of statements that I think bring up interesting points. do you think it would be beneficial to do a lecture style class for leaders on how to pattern create, or how to actually choose their syncopations or their scrolling, whatever, and how you would go through and say, how can I apply this to my basic patterns?
From a leader standpoint? Yeah, 100%.
Maybe you two can do a class.
YouTube or YouTube?
You
Yeah,
can do a class.
for sure.
So stay tuned for that one. The next one was talking about how on the site there's a lot of different patterns that are hard to remember. What are your thoughts around knowing a bunch of patterns and actually implementing them?
Boom. Google 5 ways to remember your patterns, West Coast Swing. We have a blog post on it. It is probably one of the top 3 struggles that we hear from people is how to remember stuff. And so I think, yeah, those are, and I forget the 5 keys. Can you pull that up, Miss Megan? I think to your point, what would you do, Ben? So I can hear your thoughts.
I pick a pattern and then I use it for a couple months and then I forget about it and then I remember it later in a random social dance because it matches the music, and then off you go. But I have 6 or 7. I don't necessarily do patterns. I have concepts. So I do a lot of over rotations in my dancing. And Emily's nodding her head because I do a lot of over rotations. But I like to use over rotations within mind. So I don't necessarily remember a pattern, but I know at this point I can over rotate to do this thing, and it kind of comes naturally because I've used over rotation so much.
Yep. And I'm going to plug our membership for just a second, because as you take a pattern that you want to stay on for a while and really master it, I think that's where all of us are likely to not do, right? We don't want to stay in the boring stuff, which is partially, and you guys can chime in, why as a competitor, I actually liked having a routine, because I realized how long it took to get good at it. And even though I'm a good dancer, and even though I've danced with Megan a long time, if we were to try to pick up our old routines, we might look okay, but the level that we'd be able to achieve on a couple of hours versus the amount of time we put in at our best, it's a long process. So the point is, it takes a lot of time. But on the website, we have got a cool feature. There's a favorite section. So if you remember the site, yeah, there's a little heart. So if you pick a video, and this is a feature that we got over the years that people requested, and we finally figured out a way to do it. So when you're a member of the site and you find a video that you like that you're working on, or even we have styling videos and turn videos and all sorts of stuff like that. To Ben's point, you have a couple of styling concepts. You click on those videos, put them in your favorite section, they pop up at the top. So you can revisit those concepts for a while. Then when you're done with them, unfavorite them, they pop out of your favorites, you can go on to the next one. You have a question on the video, you can type it in the video, and then it will alert us, and we can type an answer to the video. So let's say that Ben has asked a question, he's a member, he asked a question on this particular thing that wasn't clear. Megan pops in, gives an answer, the next person pops in, and typically might have the same question, and it's there.
Yeah. From a musicality perspective, I would try to learn the basic patterns and get them cold, so that way you know where you're supposed to be. But it's more of a knowing your concepts, because once you know how to dance in your 2-beat increments and you know where you're supposed to be, then things can happen more naturally, and you're not thinking, okay, right side pass, and then I'm going to extend my 3-4 in order to do this other thing.
Doobie-doobie-doo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what the pros are doing when you're watching them. A lot of people say, well, they're not doing any of the basic patterns like we do. They are, but it doesn't look like any of the basic patterns that we do, because they know exactly where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So I think that's a big part of that too.
So Ben said, you know, he has 5 or 6 things that he does all the time. And if you're watching this video and you're a leader, it sucks for you because you feel like you're doing the same patterns all night long. Different for the followers, because she does your 5 boring moves for you, and then she does Ben's 5 boring moves and my 5 boring moves. So now the girls have danced, 10 to 15 moves, and it's different each partner, and yet for me, it's my 5 stupid moves over and over and over, right? So even with the pros, I would challenge you, if you're a West Coast Swing nerd, and if you're watching this, you probably are, pick your favorite dancer, pull up a video, find out when that video was, Jack and Jill video. Okay, so it's a Jack and Jill video from summer of 2018, right? Find 5 videos of that Jack and Jill dancer doing Jack and Jill's in the summer of 2018, right? So pick your favorite dancer, whatever video you come on, pick the time period, could be any year, doesn't matter. Summer of 2018, let's say. And then pull 5 videos into your little browser and then watch XYZ dancer do this comp in July, late July, early August, mid-August, early September, and you watch 5 videos in a row, you're going to see the same 5 stupid moves. So even these brilliant dancers, over time, we don't realize that. But if you watch it, they're using the same set of materials. Now, if you watch that same dancer as they go into the fall of that year, they've got some other kind of favorite moves. They're into some different concepts. By the end of that year, they've got some different stuff, right? Now, these are people that are the best of the best and do this all the time. And they've done it for 20 and 30 years. But you'll still find them relying upon the same stuff. I love Robert Royston. Robert Royston for sure has some go-to moves, which is what makes him brilliant. He has such command of a small set of patterns and such a command of musicality that he is brilliant like all of the time. And it comes from a deep understanding of a small set of stuff. It is not a wide range of stuff when you watch Robert. Anyways, 5, do you want to say something?
Yeah. So I do want to say this, like, and this maybe just be, or might just be my opinion, but as a follower, if you take time and get good at the basic stuff first, we like a good lead. It doesn't matter what we're getting let in. I mean, obviously, the more you know, cool, whatever, but as long as you are a good lead, we don't care. So make sure you take time and learn everything the way you should.
Well, and even if I think we've talked about this multiple times, but even if the leader is just learning and they're doing their basic stuff, that doesn't mean that the follower can't do stuff on their own, as long as it doesn't affect your partner. So you can try different things. You can try different stuff on your anchor. You can try different stuff on the 3 and 4, but as long as you're where you're supposed to be in those specific parts of the pattern, then it shouldn't affect your partner at all.
The 5 keys on the site, 5 tips to remember your patterns. This is super good stuff. Number 1, take notes or a video, right? Bingo, you got the video. Usually this is where we start to fall apart. Practice the new dance steps immediately and often, like right away, right? Like right away. Then when you get home and you're getting ready to make dinner, walk through them. And then right before you go to bed, walk through them. And when you get up before you go to work, walk through them. Like, be obsessed with that. Number 2, go to bed at night, visualize. That's number 3. That was number 2. Number 3, visualize, right? Can you close your eyes and imagine yourself moving through and what the mental triggers are? When Meg and I practice, we would go through probably 50% of some of the routines by ourselves, Walt specifically, right? Because I was working on these things and I knew how to do it, but I had to remember to do it while I was lowering my weight, moving right, all these things that are rolling around your head. I had to create the mental triggers to do it. So that visualization, Ben actually uses quite a bit. So number 3, visualize. Number 4, remember the basics in your patterns. How does it tie back to something that you actually have already mastered previously? And then number 5, teach someone else. You guys know this because anytime I learn something new, I have to explain it ad nauseum to the people around me because it helps solidify my knowledge. If you go through those 5 steps, you know what you're doing. But usually people fall apart between 1 and 2. Watch the video and then watch the video, and then they keep doing 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. They never do 2, 3, 4, 5.
Completely different topic. Jen wants to know if you got choked out by your nephew today.
Nope. So my nephew started doing jiu-jitsu, and he was smaller when he started doing jiu-jitsu. Now he's like my size, maybe slightly bigger. And so we like to wrestle. He's a young boy, and I don't get to train too much because I have a bad back. And so his mom just jumped on and said, did I get choked out by Jake today? And the answer is no. He did, however, submit me with a key lock. That's an arm position. And he tricked me, just like dancing. It sneaks up. Yeah, he snuck up on me. I was laughing, and then my arm was being ripped off, and I was at my mom's house for Mother's Day, and I was stuffed underneath the kitchen table, and I couldn't move, and next thing you know, he snatched up my arm, and so anyways, it's a good, what else we got, Ben? Because it's fight night. Thanks, guys. We're off tomorrow, back next week. There'll be an email coming out. If you guys are not on our email list, go to the website, westcoastswingonline.com, enter your email address on the front page. You'll get 50 free videos with your free membership, but you'll be on our email list. And next week, I've got some cool stuff to share. We're starting to share our move of the week again. And then a link to our live videos. I will remind you when the what is two-step. I really want to share that. It's really cool. I think it's quite fun.
On Tuesday. Two-step Tuesday.
Two-step Tuesday. So the email should come out around 2 o'clock Eastern. The video
goes out at 3.
at 3. We might adjust
Eastern.
that. We got to adjust the video out about noon. Please.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That's what YouTube wants us to do anyway.
Yeah, let's put them up a little
noon
earlier.
on Tuesday.
Gidget says she'd love to bring us all to Little Rock for workshop. Yes. Actually, I didn't share this with you this morning, but one of the ideas that I want to do when we get back up and running is to have a mini West Coast Swing Online intensive here in Louisville, Kentucky. We've talked about this a little bit. Yeah. And so inviting a bunch of you guys out to have a small kind of intimate workshop where we can kind of go deep into some topics. We can even talk to everyone specifically about their needs and really curate the workshop with all of us. And then this is one thing that we don't get to do at our events because it's too stinking busy. But because we have to work, and by the time we get over with it, there's no partying. It's just sleeping 12 hours, going to bed. But I would go to Chewy's, eat some
And then we go to sleep.
chips and margarita, and go to bed. To try to put a Gordon, that's just when the video is going to pop out. It'll be just a regular YouTube video, and we'll share it via email. But it's not live.
Yeah, you'll have the link.
Yeah, so we're going to try to do something whenever this thing settles down and we're able to travel and move around, maybe sometime in the early fall where the weather's nice, and do a workshop and also do some sightseeing here in Louisville. We've got some fun stuff that we like to share. Churchill Downs is fun. The Louisville Slugger's made here. The Slugger Museum's fun.
The bourbon distillery.
There's a bunch of cool bourbon distilleries right here in downtown that are fun to do. So we're looking at doing something like that for a small group, maybe 25 to 40 people or so. So when all this settles down, that's definitely something I'm excited. And this live video format has kind of excited me to get to know some of you guys better and to kind of work in a small group, kind of like this, small interactive group environment, and host you here in our city of Louisville. So on that happy note,
Tune in next week on Saturday because it's going to be myself and Jonathan.
Yeah, next week the Q&A, Mr. Ben is going to be in front of the camera, and he's got a good friend of ours, Jonathan Baumeister, who is a DJ and competitive swing and country dancer.
And line dancer.
And he's a line dancer, so he has a similar history to me. And because he's a DJ, he has a slightly different, and because he spent more time on the West Coast Swing circuit as a competitor, he has a little bit of a different take on things, but similar-minded to us.
He was on our cruise.
And he was also worked with us on our cruise and was actually scheduled to be our DJ in Alaska. So if you guys have music and DJ related questions, competitor related questions, Jonathan's a great guy to talk to. So you get to talk to John and Ben, and are you going to hang out with them?
Probably not.
Probably not, says the
Gonna
quiet
be
Miss
boys.
Megan. There you go.
Hang
So
out with the boys.
thanks, guys. We're going to go watch fights. Love you all. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.